Hey everyone, Rua here with a bonus video. I guess you can consider it that anyway, as it's something I came up with on a whim and then just decided to put on paper. Or on text, then onto a mic, whatever. 2019 was the year when Square Enix started rolling out monthly job adjustments, and some jobs fared far better than others. Not every update hit its mark, and I'm here today to go over the ones which I think did. To qualify for this list of mine, a job had to be directly adjusted. Just getting some brilliant new piece of gear doesn't count, but it can if said job was directly adjusted. Also, before we get going, this list is entirely subjective, but I think it's been compiled as fairly as I could, so if a job you play or you like isn't on it, then please don't take it personally. Okay, here goes, the top 6 counting down. Number 6. Starting this list off is a job whose update I actually didn't get around to covering. Why I didn't, I honestly don't remember. Perhaps I just wasn't geared up enough at the time to do it proper justice. Bard's update was smaller than those to come, hence why it's here, but it still had some impact on endgame strategies. Like most Mage jobs who received an update this year, Bard saw its 2 merit songs, Faux Servente and Adventurer's Dirge, removed as merit options and instead put onto learnable scrolls, where they became available at maximum power. This might not seem like much at first, but the implications here were quite substantial. Dirge lowers the enmity of those it's used on, and it's the strongest effect of its kind in the game. When used with Soul Voice especially, Dirge becomes very noticeable, and I'll be sure to get into it when I get around to Bard's Guide. Dirge has proven to be one of the most useful songs in a Bard's repertoire, and it's had a very significant effect on DPS jobs' hate gain in endgame, in Dynamis Wave 3 especially. Maintaining hate levels in endgame, especially in Dynamis Divergence like I just said, is such a crucial part of success or failure that this adjustment proved a godsend. Incidentally, Bard's Guide is indeed coming, bear with me for a few more weeks. Okay, moving on. Number 5. Taking the number 5 spot is Dancer. Dancer was updated earlier in the year, during the January update. Dancer's update, like many on this list to follow, can be broken down across a few updates scattered throughout the year, with some of its improvements being indirect. Let's start with the direct buff it got in January. January's update saw Dancer's Waltz abilities finally have their reuse timer separated, meaning that its healing potential was greatly improved. Dancer can now alternate its waltzes during dangerous moments, and this has proven a clutch saviour for me on many an occasion since. Dancer also saw a major buff to its enfeebling roll, as the rate Presto steps build the potency of a daze effect was buffed quite a bit, with 2 Presto steps now fully capping a daze. This benefit was threefold. It meant that a Dancer did not have to stop its DPS so much to build dazes, and it also meant that it could reliably keep multiple dazes on a target at maximum power. Finally, it also meant that a Dancer could easily keep a store of finishing moves stored for flourishes, which was itself a major buff to its damage output, since it could use Climactic Flourish with a full power reverse flourish for some absolutely insane spike damage. Dancer also got a big buff to its durability, which was already pretty impressive to be honest, when the Malignant's armor set was added with the Maiden of the Dusk battlefield when it was added during the September update. Dancer is now a very useful hybrid DPS job, which more than justifies its presence through its healing ability, enfeebling effects, support sambas, and some absurdly powerful spike damage which puts Thief to shame. Number 4. Coming in at number 4 is a recent entry with Paladin. Like I said only last week in my December update video, Paladin is still not the finished article to me, but it's come along far enough to warrant taking this spot. Since my last video on it, I've done some more testing with its Majesty ability, and I'm legitimately blown away with how strong a healer it's become for a job which is still billed as a tank first and foremost. With a high-end build and a good player at the helm, it's entirely possible for a Paladin to serve as a group's main healer. I've seen it done firsthand. Paladin comes in at number 4 because, like I said, it's still a work in progress, but I feel its update was significant enough to change preconceptions of the job, and give us an earnest alternative to the Runefencer monopoly. There's a reason Runefencer was not featured in this year's updates, and I think that's because Square Enix knows it's a bit too strong, and that Paladin needed something to make it an attractive alternative. The buff to Paladin's curing, and by extension enmity gain, was a leap in the right direction. I don't think Paladin's seen the last of the attention from future updates either, so I'm very interested to see where it's taken from here. Number 3. Dragoon, the in-and-out underdog of Vana'diel. Dragoon has always had a dedicated following of career players, but this was the year they finally found themselves back in the spotlight. Dragoon's update came in 2 installments, 3 if you count the implementation of the damage limit trait at the tail end of 2018, a trait of which it got more tiers than most. Its first direct update coincided with Dancers. This update saw its jump timers finally separated, which proved to be a massive boost to its TP gain, and hate control as well, as Dragoons no longer had to choose between their best TP gain jump in Soul Jump, and shedding the majority of their hate with High Jump. This update was neat and all, but players still felt it needed something more. Fast forward to the October update and the final piece of the Dragoons puzzle fell into place. This update saw Dragoons get another ability to help keep their Wyvern alive, but more importantly saw it get an exclusive job trait and weapon skill damage boost. This trait, which grew stronger when the Wyvern was at maximum power, pushed Dragoon's damage output to some pretty dizzying heights. Admittedly, it's still not enough to compete with the likes of a Rampaging Warrior using their 2 SP abilities, but proved more than enough to make it a solid option. And arguably, the best DPS job for a long fight where its hate shedding ability would see it pull ahead of other jobs that would have to throttle down when they hit the hate ceiling. Dragoon is now a fully fixed job in my eyes. Justice finally realised for one that has spent too long in the shadows. Speaking of which... Number 2. Talk about bringing a job back from the dead. Taking the number 2 spot is Monk, and you'd have been forgiven for suspecting I'd given it the top spot. Monk's updates came in segments, some of which predate 2019's timeframe like Dragoon before it. And where you see where Monk was before these updates to where it is now, you get the feeling Square Enix was being very careful about how they adjusted the job, lest they return it to the days of Abyssy where it was blatantly overpowered. Monk's first consequential update came along with the introduction of the aforementioned damage limit trait, an update which also saw the accuracy cap for hand-to-hand weapons rise to 99%. This was a large boost to the raw damage output of Impetus, but that would soon look like a drop in the ocean. Monk's next update accompanied Dragoons, and to say it was big would be a gross understatement. This update brought a blanket buff to all hand-to-hand weapon skills by adjusting how they interacted with FTP and multi-attack. Some also got a modifier increase just for good measure. Monk's biggest problem for a long time had been apparent for all to see. Its weapon skill damage was just earth-shatteringly poor, and the October update finally remedied this problem. If you ask me, Monk now stands as one of the best DPS jobs in the game. Like Dragoon, it won't match the insane damage output of a warrior going absolutely medieval on something, but it has so much else going for it to justify being there. I emphasised during its guide that Monk's greatest strength is that it's an incredible job for controlling the pace of a battle by crippling the TP gain of its target through Subtle Blow, Penance, and Shijin Spiral's Plague. Now that it hits like a runaway cement truck rolling downhill, it stands tall as a top-tier DPS job, with great utility and durability. Having just heaped so much praise on Monk, you might be wondering what job could possibly be occupying the top spot. If you watch my channel on the regular, you can probably guess, purely because you've not seen it yet. Number 1. Yep, Red Mage tops the list at number 1. Where do I seriously even begin here? Red Mage has gone from a job deemed borderline worthless by the community thanks to Geomancer, to a job that has launched a comeback so incredible it beggars belief. Red Mage's first update of 2019 came in February, and upon hearing from Square Enix that it was only part 1 of 2, more than a few players likely did a double take. This update changed Saboteur so it would last for a whole minute rather than instantly wear off upon a spell being cast. This meant that a red mage could open a battle by burying their target in a pile of powered up enfeebling spells, smashing down resist traits through an increased immunobreak chance also incorporated into the ability. This same update also brought a change to Composure through the addition of magic accuracy to its effects, as well as the tripling of end spell base damage, something which made an already powerful weapon in the Crochet Moors among the best endgame weapons in the entire game. There's a reason you've probably seen so many of these selling like hotcakes. It's an absurdly powerful weapon in the hands of a veteran. Jumping ahead a few months, and Red Mage got the second part of its update, and somehow expectation was met. This time around, Red Mage saw its Tier 2 enfeebling spells become available at maximum power since they had been removed as merit spells and put onto scrolls like Bard. Only a month after this, the Malignance armor landed, and the final piece of the puzzle finally clicked into place after so many years. Malignance is pretty much the ultimate Red Mage armor, especially in high-level content due to its incredible defensive attributes. The loss of attack and multi-attack isn't a major deal either, since the majority of the job's damage is coming from end spells and elemental weapon skills. And since Temper 2 ensures weapon skill frequency isn't going to drop off, it's pretty remarkable. This isn't even taking into account the Daybreak from the same update, which might as well be an REMA weapon in its own right, as it gave Red Mage a spell it's uniquely suited to get the most out of with this Spellger. 2019 has seen Red Mage go from near total obscurity to arguably the most overpowered job in the game. I'm not even joking here. Thanks to these stellar updates and some incredible displays of skill by some of its highest tier players you should be seeing right now, Red Mage has taken back its title as the game's champion solo and low-man job, and is now held in very high esteem by serious endgame link shells for what it brings to the table. Sure, its skill ceiling is very high and it demands a lot of very expensive and rare equipment, but when you get there, Red Mage is well worth it. Right, that just about wraps this video up. Final Fantasy XI has been around for nearly 18 years, yet after all this time it's still developing. There's not many games which can share that distinction. I hope you've enjoyed this little summation of mine, as it's something I've not done before. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own to put to everyone? If you do, put it in the comments below, and let's engage the community. I'll see you all in the new year. 2020 beckons.